On the banks of the Ohio River in far southwestern Kentucky, where the future of a popular ferry was in great peril, but now there may be a deal. This is in Marion, Kentucky, where the Cave-In-Rock Ferry is continuing to take vehicles and people across the Ohio River to Cave-In-Rock, Illinois. It has done so for almost 2 centuries. But a funding gap caused some to consider closing the crossing for good tonight. Joining us now to talk about this is Crittenden County Judge Executive Perry Newcomb. Thank you, sir, for joining us tonight. We appreciate it. Now, we understand there was a last-minute, I don't know if you want to call it a maneuver, but it worked to save the ferry operations. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct, Shelley. Actually, as of 4:30 this afternoon, when I left my office, there was no deal. The ferry had planned to close at the end of tonight's shift at 10 o'clock p.m. and not reopen tomorrow morning. But we were able to continue negotiations with Secretary Gray, the Transportation Secretary of Kentucky, and Secretary Osmond in Illinois. And we were able to reach an agreement probably around 8 o'clock tonight to keep the ferry in operation, so it'll continue first thing in the morning as usual.
And as I understand, that funding was the key issue here. The ferry operator told us that he needed assurance that long-term funding would be there. So how did you make this funding happen?
Well, Shelley, it was actually a great teamwork effort between myself, our state legislators, Senator Robbie Mills from there in Henderson, who covers our district here in District 4, Representative Lynn Beckler, District 4 state representative here for Crittenden County, Senator Fowler over in Southern Illinois for District 59, and Representative Patrick Windhurst. And ultimately, it came down to the transportation secretaries for each state basically coming together, reviewing the current agreement, and extending an offer to continue to operate the ferry under the terms of the current agreement.
And we have heard that this ferry carries, what, about 500 cars every day. What would it mean to the community if it had to shut down?
I think for both Southern Illinois and West Kentucky, it would be a huge impact. I know for Marion and Crittenden County specifically, it would definitely be a huge impact to our local economy. Southern Illinois is even more sparsely populated than Crittenden County, so most of those folks come across the river to do their grocery shopping, to buy gasoline, go to the doctors. Several people from Southern Illinois work in Crittenden County as well as surrounding counties, and several people from Kentucky still work in Southern Illinois. So it's a main artery of transportation for people to get back and forth to work to provide for their families.
Judge Executive, do you think that there's anything that could have been done to have prevented this from coming down to the last minute like it did today?
Yeah, and we're working on that, Shelley. I think communication was the key, and unfortunately, there just wasn't a lot of communication until the last month, and so we've struck a plan to formulate a joint committee between legislators of both states, local government leaders, and both transportation cabinets to form an ad hoc committee that we're gonna plan on meeting more regularly to keep those lines of communication open, especially during times of administration changes. And I think that's as much as what caught us this year as anything. You know, Governor Beshear came in and thankfully supported this project greatly, and appreciate him for his support. But you know, he's been somewhat overwhelmed with COVID-19 since he's been basically in office, and you know, I think this renewal kind of slipped through the cracks a bit, and moving forward, we're going to do a much better job communicating and making sure that doesn't happen.
Well, at this point, we're glad to say that the Cave-In-Rock Ferry will continue as normal tomorrow after being saved today. Judge Executive Perry Newcomb, thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate your time tonight.
Thank you, Shelley. I appreciate you guys coming.
All right. Thank you, sir.